Alright everybody, welcome back to Game 2, Top 8, the Hilliard, Ohio City Championships. In Game 1 we saw Drew Holton on the left take a very close game. He almost got devoured by the Durant of Joe on the right. And we'll see if this game turns out any differently. Now, obviously this is one of Durant's worst matchups. As far as matchups go, I mean, for Durant, you don't want to run into decks that can easily knock you out in one hit. You do have Eviolite and Special Metal to basically make it so Durant can take 90 damage before he gets knocked out. The magic number for Durant is 100 damage, then you get to knock him out. So we do see 2 mulligans right off the bat. But anyway, so decks like Zekrom, if they can get a quick Bolt Strike and just keep doing 120 to your Durants, there's not much you can do about it. Decks like Typhlosion, if they can get a quick Typhlosion, just keep using Flare Destroy or Blue Flare with Reshiram, not much you can do about it. You're just going to keep getting knocked out. So you need to kind of find ways to slow your opponent down. The good matchups for Durant would be stuff like Yanmega, where they can't really knock you out if you got Eviolite or Special Metal attached. And pretty much anything that can't knock out Durant in one hit, that's your good matchup. So we will see Joe finally start with a basic. He actually starts with 2 Durants, so that's good for him. And we're going to get this going. I would assume Joe will choose to go first. Not sure why he wouldn't. And he's just kind of staring at his hand. So alright, we're going to get started here. Going first. A couple of Durants. And alright, so he benches a Mime Jr. that he top decks. He does not have a Collector, so that's important to note. I would say in this spot you definitely want to play the Juniper. You need to devour as quickly as possible. And for Drew it looks like it's kind of a big glare on the card there, but he did start with a Reshiram, so he would prefer a Cyndaquil, but it's a Reshiram. And he's just going to have to start with that. If you're Typhlosion, the thing you want to start with would be either a free retreating Pokemon like Cleffa or Pichu. Drew runs both of those. Or you want to start with Cyndaquil. But he started with Reshiram. We'll see how that goes. So we do see a Collector right off the bat. And he's going to just grab a couple Cyndaquils, I would think. I'm not sure how useful Ninetales would be in this situation. You don't really want to draw more cards. You just want to get one attacker out and kind of win. That's all you're trying to do. So, this is all Drew's going to have to do at this point. Just go for some Cyndaquils, try to get a Typhlosion, and kind of run him over like what happened in the first game. Now, you don't want to bench too much stuff. You can get in those situations where Catcher hurts you, like we saw in the first game. So Drew will bench 2 Cyndaquils and pass. So he's going to try to get out 2 Typhlosions this game. But that's not always easy, given Durant will be discarding a lot of your stuff right away. So it becomes difficult to get out multiple stage 2s. We do see Drew has quite a nice hand though. He does have a Quilava, 2 rare candies, a Typhlosion, and he might just have what he needs to explode and get a quick start and just win the game. So we also see a Collector. Getting 2 Durants and a Spiritomb out of Joe. Uh-oh. Does Joe have a read on Drew? Does he know Drew has a good hand and he's going to Spiritomb him? That would be a pretty nice play. I'm not sure how he would see that, but I mean, Drew's got, what, about 8 cards? Maybe he just might want to do it after that mulligan. He did mulligan twice, so he might want to Spooky Whirlpool to limit Drew's options. Most people probably wouldn't do that, but that would be a big play in this game, and here we go. Spooky Whirlpool, taking away Drew's perfect hand. And, wow. Nice play here by Joe. Really putting Drew on the back foot. And we'll see if Drew draws into a similar hand. You know, if he doesn't get any Typhlosions anytime soon, he's going to be in some trouble. So, going to take his 6 cards here. And he does get a rare candy and a Typhlosion, but not nearly as good as his first hand. Fortunate enough to get a decent hand, and there's a fire that gets discarded. And we see him draw another Typhlosion, so gonna see Rare Candy Typhlosion out of Drew, and Joe did the dirty work for him, discarding one of those fire energies. So right off the bat, we will see Drew get a turn 2 Blue Flare, which isn't the greatest in the world against Durant. You leave yourself wide open to Catcher, but hey, you do what you gotta do. Now this is a weird spot for Drew. He could attach an Afterburner to the active and Blue Flare for a knockout, but that would leave himself open to a Catcher. He would have to discard 2 fire off his Reshiram, and then Typhlosion would be naked with 0 energy on it, and he wouldn't be able to retreat or attack with the Typhlosion, so he's going to Afterburner to the Reshiram. The safer play would probably be attaching to Typhlosion, which he's just done, and he's going to Outrage for 60. So even though he could have had a turn 2 Blue Flare, sometimes it's just better to play the more conservative route. In this case, he doesn't want to fall victim to a Catcher, and you know Joe plays a lot of Twins, so surely he will have access to a Catcher if Drew were to take a knockout here. So he wants to be safe before he makes a move. He wants to make sure he has enough energy in play, just not to fall victim to this Catcher nonsense. And he can wait a turn at this point to just take the knockout. So against Durant, you have to know when and when not to be overly aggressive. In this situation, it was probably better not to be aggressive, and we'll see what happens from here. Drew does have another rescue and a fire in his hand, so he's got plenty of energy. And if he were to get another rare candy at any point, or even draw a second Pokemon so he can communication for Quilava, he'll be alright. If he can get 2 Typhlosions in play, there goes a rare candy. And looks like Joe didn't discard any more fires, so that's kind of what Drew was hoping for, I would think. And alright. Drew's got some options here. See how he decides to go about it. He's going to put a rescue onto Cyndaquil and then just Outrage for a knockout. So at this point, Joe's got some decisions to make. Where does he want to go from here? Surely he doesn't mind just being outraged by Reshiram. You know, he probably wants to wait until Drew uses Blue Flare and then go from there. Or he could just Catcher out Typhlosion and put Drew in kind of an awkward spot, because there's no fire in Drew's discard pile, and most likely he would have to retreat if Typhlosion got Catchered up. So in this situation, you definitely want to Catcher out Typhlosion, I would think. No reason to just sit here and let Reshiram Blue Flare you. You want to, like I said in the previous game with Durant, you want to try to make your opponent not be able to attack you. That's why you play cards like Pokemon Catcher. You try to get a Pokemon stuck in the active spot so that they can't knock out a Durant. You're trying to steal turns away from your opponent and devour without being knocked out. That's got to be his goal here. Start the Catchers. Again, I would love to see a card like Crushing Hammer or Lost Remover. That would give him a fighting chance in this matchup, but doesn't look like he plays any, and that's really gonna make it tough for him. Typhlosion, very tough matchup, just because they can get all their energy back. They can really play without a hand once they get set up. So if you can make it so you can slow them down with cards like Catcher and Lost Remover and Crushing Hammer, that would be a very big deal. But all Joe's got is Catcher, so he's going to play with what he's got. Bring out the Typhlosion, which is the absolute right move, and we will see one more Devour. So the slow process of devouring Drew's deck begins. We do see another Typhlosion discarded, and not a fire energy, so that's going to be some trouble. We're going to see a switch out of Drew, though. It's a nice card to have in this situation. He will send up Reshiram. He does have a Catcher in his hand, a Max Potion, which will not be useful in this matchup in the least. Communication, Typhlosion, and a Fire. So, not the greatest hand in the world. He's going to attach the Fire to Reshiram. and just go ahead and Blue Flare. Now the other option he had was to Catcher out the Mime Jr. on the bench. That way he wouldn't be stuck in any awkward positions. But he decides to Blue Flare, take out the Durant, and force Joe to have some sort of revive or a way to get back a Durant. And now the problem though for Drew is that he's kind of stuck himself in that spot with Catcher. If Typhlosion gets Catchered out again and he doesn't have an energy, then he won't be able to attack for a turn, and that's really gonna be a bummer. He's gonna give Joe a free turn to attack. So we do see a Super Rod from Joe. He's gonna shuffle in a Durant and a Metal, and then play a Twins to get the Durant out of his deck. So he will plays it straight away. There's no secret about what he's getting, I guess. You don't have to reveal the cards you get with Twins, but sometimes people don't care. They're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna play these anyway, so might as well show you. And he gets Durant and a Catcher. He's gonna Catcher out Typhlosion once again. This is exactly what we all thought would happen. No surprises here from Joe. He's just doing what Durant does, and it looks like he does discard a Fire, so that's gonna be good news for Drew. Now, Drew will not be able to attack this turn. However, he did get a Pokemon out of his prizes, a Reshiram, which will allow him to get Quilava. And then that's going to allow him to get Typhlosion next turn, and he's going to be able to Afterburner twice a turn. So, at that point, there's really no hope for Joe avoiding knockouts every turn, which is going to be the problem. He doesn't have much time. Drew's just going to Catcher out Spiritomb to try to buy a turn himself. Guess that's not a bad idea. Probably would have preferred to see him use the Catcher the previous turn on the Mime Jr. just to avoid having to Blue Flare, but I don't think this will end up being relevant at all. Once Drew gets that second Typhlosion out, it's all curtains for Durant. Unless there are fewer cards in Drew's deck than I thought, and we're going to see an N here. Looks like Drew he's knocked out 2 Durants at this point, so there should be 4 prizes. We'll see. I think he has knocked out 2 Durants with Reshiram, if I'm not mistaken, so we'll see how many cards he draws. It'll probably be 4. That's actually going to take away Drew's Typhlosion, which is a big deal. He has 2 in the discard pile already, so it'll be a big deal if he doesn't draw it back. And he does get an energy, but he does not get that Typhlosion, which, that could actually impact the game quite a bit. So, we're going to see Spiritomb retreat, because Joe did top deck the Metal Energy at the start of his turn. And here he's just going to go for a good old-fashioned Devour. And that's going to be that. I'm not sure if he wants to play a Catcher this turn. Maybe he might want to bring out Reshiram. It could be his best bet here. And looking at it, yeah, I would agree with that. The problem being, if he doesn't have an Eviolite, and Outrage will knock his Durant out. So, he does not have an Eviolite currently. So, bringing out Reshiram would be a mistake here. So, he brings out Quilava. Also a questionable call, seeing as that can just retreat, but he could be setting it up for a later Catcher. And we're going to see another Devour. No Typhlosion there, fortunately for Drew. And we should see a simple retreat and knockout on Drew's end. So, he's going to Afterburner to the Reshiram, realizing there's no Eviolite on there. Retreat, and he can Outrage for 40 times 2, which is 80, minus 10 for the special metal, which is just enough to knock out Mr. Durant. So, Drew is now down to 3 prizes. Looks like he's got a pretty healthy sized deck, and Joe is gonna struggle to deck him out this game, I would think. We're gonna see Pokegear for 7. I'm sure he would like to see a Twins, which he is seeing right now. Twins is the card you want to see at this point, so he's going to take that. And this turn he's going to want to Catcher out Quilava, hopefully. Get an Eviolite on one of his Durants, and start to Devour again. Because honestly, he needs to survive a turn. He needs, I mean, he needs to just buy a turn, so Drew can't knock him out in one hit. That's really the only way he's going to be able to win. I mean, the other way would be to stay asleep with Mime Jr. for a million turns, keep using Sleepy Lost. Not the most reliable strategy in the world, though. So I would love to see Joe take an Eviolite here. He really needs one. But I'm not sure how much he has left in his hand otherwise. Looks like he doesn't have much. And that could be a problem. So, not sure if he has any other supporters in his hand. I didn't see. We'll find out shortly. So that will affect the second card he takes off of the twins. So he takes a Junk Arm. Not sure what he's going to go for with that. I'm not too sure what's left in his deck or what's prized. But let's see. Okay, so his hand is not very good. It's actually 2 metal and a Junk Arm, so that's not good. Not sure why he took the Junk Arm there. I'd rather see him take a supporter, honestly. Junk Arm is probably the worst card you want to take when your hand is so small. And this turn he's probably going to have to Sleepy Lost. Not sure what his other option would be. Just hope that Drew does not have a catcher. Hope that his Mime Jr. stays asleep. And honestly, off that twins, if you're not going to Devour, there's no reason to use Revive this turn either. So I would say Joe probably didn't pick the best cards off of that twins. It's tough when you have to decide just 2 cards out of your whole deck which ones you want to take. But I think in this situation, Joe could have picked 2 better ones. I'm sure whatever he's going to Junk Arm for here, he could have had one in his deck and not have to discard his hand. So, not really sure what he was trying to do with that. Maybe he just kind of had a brain fart, wasn't really thinking it through. But in any case, he's going to put himself in a bad position where he's just at 0 cards. And he's actually going to catch her out Typhlosion. And he's going to have to Devour. And that is going to be all he can do. Oh, and there's Drew's 4th Typhlosion. There are 3 in the discard pile now. So that is a big deal. But probably not a big deal because there's also a fire that got discarded. And now it's just academic from here. You know, Joe doesn't have a hand. Drew has a pretty big deck. And he's got Typhlosion and Reshiram ready to just knock out all these Durants. And honestly, he's probably better off sending out Mime Jr. Not sure why he didn't do that at the start of the turn. Does have free retreat. Sleepy Lost, and he does stay asleep. So this could be an opening for him to buy a couple turns. You know, there's not a whole lot of cards left in Drew's deck. Maybe about 12 or 15 at this point. Not too sure. But it looks like Drew does have a Junk Arm in his hand. And that's going to mean he can simply catch her around the Mime Jr. and take a prize this turn. And eventually this is probably going to be game over. He's going to play a Junk Arm. Discards 2 Sages. I might want to keep 1 just in case. You know, I might need to find that last catcher to get around Mime Jr. again. But probably not going to matter too much. Not sure what else is in his hand. Sage is very bad against Durant because you were basically milling 5 cards for them. So now we were just down to Mime Jr. versus the world. And I don't know if Mime Jr. can do it alone. So there's a Sleepy Lost and he wakes up. And that's going to be the game. So Drew will take this series 2-0. He will move on to the top 4 where he will face a new challenger. We'll see if he can go all the way and be crowned the city champion of Hilliard, Ohio. So thank you guys for watching. We'll be back with the top 4 shortly. And stay tuned. Thanks for watching again.